Okay, we're at 1:30. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us here today. We hope you're enjoying WoundCon Fall 2021. My name is Caoimhe Kenny. I'm the Director of Marketing for the American Board of Wound Management, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our session today, Earning Your ABWM Wound Certification, How to Apply and Mistakes to Avoid. I'm joined today by my colleague, Matt Pina, who's the Manager of Certification and Recertification here at ABWM. Hi, Matt.
Hello, welcome.
So in terms of the format for today's session, Matt will spend the first 10 minutes or so walking you through the ABWM application process, and then we can spend the rest of the session answering any audience questions. So please feel free to pop any questions for Matt in the chat box or in the Q&A feature, and we'll have time to answer them all at the end of the session. Just to note, this session is being recorded and it will be available in the ABWM virtual booth for the next 7 days as part of the on-demand portion of the conference. So let's get started. Take it away, Matt.
Right, so what we're going to start with first is where everybody should be starting, which is eligibility. Am I eligible? So we determine that a couple of different ways. So we are, just to first point out as well, we're multidisciplinary. So your specialty in and of itself doesn't qualify you or disqualify you, nor does your geographical location. It doesn't matter where you live or are licensed as far as, you know, in the US or outside the US. So we have 3 different certifications here: our associate level certification, the CWCA, and then the CWS, our wound specialist, and then the physician exam. So they're somewhat tiered in a way. So if you're looking at a certification that just requires the 3 years of experience in wound care that all 3 require, but you're not a doctor or don't have a bachelor's degree in a health science, then you'd be looking at that associate level certification. And then moving up from that, we have the CWS, which is generally the specialties that we've listed here. It's not meant to be an exhaustive list of everybody. It's just these are generally the ones that we see. And then we have the physician exam. So that's only for the MDs, DOs, and DPMs as we list it. And then all 3 require 3 years of wound care experience, which is the main eligibility criteria. That's not specific type of wound care or number of hours or things like that. It's just, can you speak to 3 years of cumulative wound care experience in a clinical setting, period. And it is somewhat of a self-assessment to a degree as well. So if you're looking at that criteria, you need to feel comfortable doing that. So it's not, the onus isn't entirely on us to just assess whether or not you are. It would be also looking at the handbook for each of those certifications, which has a content outline, and, you know, just seeing whether you feel comfortable with that material as well. So there is a level of also just sort of evaluating yourself, whether you think it is something that you'd be interested in, and then also be able to do. So we have an all online application process. So it's fairly simple to complete, easy step-by-step process, which is great. So that would be on our website. There's a how to apply section, as we note here in that first bullet point. So that has a step-by-step guide from application all the way through to testing. And so you can sort of follow along with the steps there. Once you're in the application itself, though, you can track where you are with each step in that application. Has it been approved? Is it being reviewed? Is there something missing? So that can be tracked. You also pay online. So everything takes place in the online application system. And once you've done that through Certimi, which is the platform that we use, then it moves on to our testing partner, Pearson VUE. So they will send you an email with some scheduling instructions. So usually once you've been approved, you just give it about 3 to 5 business days. Once you're approved, we send these over in batches to Pearson VUE. So it's not an instant thing where I'm approved today and then I get an email today from the testing company with those instructions. So you would just give that some time And these appointments are offered on a first come, first served basis. It's not specific days of the year or times or anything like that. It's just if there's a seat available at your local Pearson VUE testing center on the day and time you want to take it, then that's when you would take it. And currently Pearson VUE has about 300 locations around the US, and then they work with partner organizations in other countries. So we do have people that are certified in several other countries around the world that have taken it through a Pearson VUE affiliate. And we do have a landing page on the Pearson VUE website as well. So there's also some more information there if you want to look up where the local testing center is to you. That sort of information is available there. And once you have the certification, we just want to touch on some of these maintenance points that are just important to keep in mind. So it is an annual renewal that you would be completing of $150. Everybody is renewing by January 31st, so it's a calendar renewal. It doesn't matter when you got the certification. So we're currently in that period for people who are certified, so that we usually start that at the beginning of November the previous year. So people have 3 months to meet that first deadline. We do have 2 deadlines following that at the end of February and end of March, but those do add on some additional late fees. And then ultimately, if you don't renew by that April 1st deadline of any given year, then you would lose the certification. Those 6 hours of continuing education just have to be wound care related. There's nothing specific, again, as far as the type or anything like that. And then every 10 years, you would be recertifying by taking the exam again. And in that, when the year that you do that, you're not paying that renewal fee. So you're not going to be double dipping with that. So once you get to that 10-year mark, it's just sitting for the exam again. You don't have to do the renewal and the CEU hours. So that's just our general overview there of sort of where to find the information, what's involved, and how to go about it. So if anybody has any specific questions, we can take those now.
Thanks, Matt. We have one question here in the Q&A box that asks, once certified, is the certification good in all other countries or just in your own country?
So it doesn't matter where you live. It's also not the same as a license. So sometimes people confuse it with licensure. So whether it is or isn't acceptable to your employer or where you live, that's not up to us. That would be a question for whoever that is that you're referencing. But yeah, it's not a license. So it doesn't allow you to do something that you're not licensed to do as a nurse or a doctor or whatever your specialty is. This is just a voluntary certification. So it demonstrates your expertise and knowledge in the field of wound care. But yeah, it's not a license.
Great. And just in case anyone missed that at the top of the session, our certifications are open for all international applicants. So it doesn't matter where you are. We have a network of testing centers through our testing partner Pearson VUE around the globe. So it's not limited to just Americans. Okay, here's another question. So how soon after you sit for the exam do candidates receive their exam scores?
So it's an immediate notification. So it's a computerized multiple choice exam. So once you're finished with the exam, the test center is going to immediately, well, you'll see your score on the screen first, but they'll also print out a paper score report for you. So that'll break down how you scored on the different sections of the exam. So they break it down by sort of content areas. So, if you didn't pass the exam, you can at least see what areas maybe need some more attention as far as the content is concerned.
Great. Okay. Another question here, is there a class required or can I study on my own for the exam? So it's
self-study exams. So there are other certifications if anybody's looked up some of the other ones out there with wound care. Some of them are set up where you go take a course somewhere for a day or two or whatever, and then that sort of in itself makes you eligible, and then you take the test. So we're not set up that way. There is no requirement of taking a course, and it has zero effect on whether or not you can take the exam. So you would just prepare however you see fit. We do have some links to different resources and things on our website that to sort of help steer people in a direction. But at the end of the day, we're not allowed to specifically recommend anything, as that would be a conflict of interest. So it is, ultimately your choice how you prepare for the exam. So there are some courses and things out there, but again, that would be something you would just assess on your own. Some people study best going to an in-person course. Maybe somebody's fine with just a study guide and study by themselves. So it really just depends.
Great, thanks, Matt. So we have another question. Could you please distinguish between the 3 designations?
Yeah, so
and I can go back to that slide actually.
Sure. While we do that, there's just a question from someone in the chat as well about the practice exam. So we do have practice exams that are offered through the ABWM Foundation. So you might see those words banded around. So there's the ABWM Foundation, and then there's us, the ABWM. We are 2 entirely separate, independently run organizations. The foundation, the only thing they do is education. So one of the things they have is practice exams, and all the questions on the practice exams are questions that were at one point on our exams. So they are, as close as you're going to get to actual exam questions, because they were exam questions at one point. So yeah, the distinguish between the 3, as we said, so it is multidisciplinary. There is a little bit of, pigeonholing with some of these, like the physician exams. So obviously that's not open to anybody that isn't a physician. They're generally one of these 3 specialties. The other 2 are much broader, the CWS and CWCA. The eligibility is virtually the same, except that the CWS requires that bachelor's degree in a health science, which most of the specialties that we list here that we see generally just have that already, as that's what you are required to have in order to sit for that. The only exception there is the RN. So as an RN, it doesn't matter what degree you have. If you're an RN, then that's fine. You can apply for that one, assuming you have the required experience and then the other things.
So someone else asks, what is the first time passing rate for the exam? So these stats are on our website. I just pulled them up. So for the CWCA first time certification, the pass rate is 68.6%. For the CWS first time certification, it's 64.9%. And for the CWSP initial certification, the pass rate is 84.4%. So a little different on each of the 3 exams.
And it does change, over time, because our exams, there's a lot of work that goes into the behind the scenes between our exam committees and the work that our testing partner does. So everything is analyzed down to a very micro level as far as the statistics of the exams and how specific questions perform and all that. So these things do change. Obviously, just also if there's more people that are passing the exam in a given time period versus not. But that, yeah, so that sometimes the scores, that doesn't move very often, but we do sometimes see an edit of maybe 1 or 2 questions as far as the passing grade, just based on, factors that change. So just something to keep in mind, that that's what they are now, but they also do fluctuate a little bit, but it's generally in that 60, maybe low 70% range.
Yeah, that's a good point that they fluctuate. And then I guess we can touch on as well if people fail their exam the first time around, they are able to retest. So do you want to talk a little bit about the retesting policies, Matt, maybe?
Yeah, so when you apply for the first time, the date that you take the exam for the first time, that basically starts a clock where you then have 2 years to retest as many times as you need to from the date of that first attempt. Once you get beyond that 2-year period, then you would have to start from scratch as far as applying again as a first-time candidate with all of the the things that entails. So there's not like a different application. It's just exactly the same as you would have done the first time. But you do have the opportunity to retest. So you would be able to retest 2 more times after that first attempt. But if you then need to retest a 4th time or more, then that's going to require 20 hours of continuing education in wound care per attempt. So once you've taken that 3rd time and you failed and you need to take it a 4th time, then at that point you would go take those 20 hours wherever you'd like. There's a lot of resources online, but again, we're not concerned necessarily where exactly it's coming from. We just need it to be wound care related, and then you would submit that with each attempt beyond the 3rd one.
Great. I don't see any more. Oh, someone asked, will this Zoom meeting be available as part of the free on-demand WoundCon access? And yes, it will be. So we'll be putting up the recording of this session in the WoundCon booth. It should be available later this afternoon and will be available for the next 7 days as part of the on-demand portion of the conference. So if you want to revisit any of the questions that we covered here today, you're welcome to refer back to that. Also, feel free to contact us directly. We're available on info@abwmcertified.org. I can put that email in the chat. And yeah, we're always happy to answer any questions people have about certification. There's also a lot of great resources in our booth that you can explore. There's step-by-step guidelines on how to apply. There's some videos on each of the 3 certifications that you can watch. You can subscribe to our newsletter. So we send that out every 2nd month, and that has lots of great information on earning and maintaining your certification and in general wound care news. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have videos available on our YouTube page. So you can find us in all of those places. So I think that's pretty much everything. I have one question actually to asking if we were putting the slides in the booth. I'll double check if we can provide a link to these slides, but otherwise all of the information is in the different materials in the booth. So you should be able to find the answers to everything there. So thank you all for joining us. I think it's been a really informative session. Thanks, Mac, for the great presentation. And yeah, thank you all for joining us and enjoy the rest of the conference. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.